Báilalo, gózalo, como lo canto y lo siento yo. Como báilalo, gózalo, como lo canto y lo siento yo. Como báilalo, gózalo, como lo canto y lo siento yo. Como báilalo, gózalo, como lo canto y lo siento yo. Como
talking about not just Hades, but how Steam has become one of the best gaming monopolies in PC gaming. Let me ask you a real question. If your Steam account was deleted tomorrow, how much of your life and money would just vanish? For me, that would just be a year and a few $100s. That's the trap, isn't it? We don't just use Steam, we're anchored to it. We've reached the point where if a game isn't on Steam, it basically doesn't exist for a huge chunk of the PC community. We call ourselves the PC Master Race because we love open platforms, but we spent the last 2 decades building a walled garden around ourselves. I wasn't around during Steam's uprising, but older gamers remember when Steam was the enemy back in 2004, when you had to install the clunky olive green app just to play Half-Life 2 and everyone hated it. It felt like handcuffs. Valve, the company behind Steam, came up with this bright idea to make those handcuffs feel like jewelry. They gave us a workshop for mods. They gave us seasonal sales that literally became a culture event. They solved the headache for PC gaming so well that we stopped looking elsewhere. The time we looked up to see Steam as a whole for what it really was, it wasn't just a store, it was an entire ecosystem. You're on Steam because your friends are there. Your friends are on Steam because the games are there. The games are there because you're there. It's a perfect cycle that nobody can ever break. Now here's where Steam's monopoly gets controversial. Valve takes 30% cut of almost everything sold on the platform. Now back in 2010, sure, they were providing the servers, the bandwidth, the storefront. It was a fair deal. But it's 2026, the bandwidth is cheap, the storage is cheap, and yet the 30% still hasn't changed. Now think about an indie developer. They spent 3 years in a basement bleeding money to finish a game. They were selling it for $20. Valve takes 6 right off the top. For what exactly? Hosting a 2 gigabyte file? Critics and lawyers are now arguing that Steam uses its most favored nation rules to keep it this way. Basically, if a dev wants to sell on Steam, they can't sell their game cheaper on a different site. This effectively kills price competition. If Epic Games says, hey, we only take 12%, sell your game here. Valve's rules basically say, if you do that, you're off our platform. And since being off Steam is suicide, the price stays high everywhere. That's a monopoly, plain and simple. The crazier part of this monopoly is the fact that we, the gamers, are enforcing this monopoly. Remember when the Epic Game Store launched? The internet exploded. People weren't just annoyed, they were angry. We've become so used to all-in-one library that having to click a different icon on our desktop feels like a personal insult. And Valve knows this. They launched the Steam Deck, which is an amazing piece of hardware. I, for one, would love to get one, but being a broke teenager, I can't afford that. And let's be honest, with this launch of the Steam Deck, it locks you into their store even tighter. It's benevolent dictatorship. As long as Gabe Newell is in charge and the sales are good, we're happy. But what happens when the leadership changes? What happens when the monopoly stops being nice? The final most human cost of Steam's monopoly is discoverability. There are over hundreds of thousands of games on Steam now. Every day, 50 to 100 new games drop. Valve's algorithm is the judge, jury, and executioner for these developers. Algorithm doesn't pick you in the first 48 hours, your game is buried forever. When one company owns the only shelf in town, they decide who gets to be seen. That is an insane amount of power for a private company that doesn't answer to shareholders or the public. We're trusting them to be the gatekeepers of art, and right now, their only real metric is what makes us that 30% cut. So is Steam a monopoly? Probably. Most likely. Is it a bad one? Shit, it's my favorite one, I'll give you that much. They've given us, in my opinion, the best gaming platform in a long time, but they've also made it almost impossible for anyone else to compete. But I'm not saying you should get all your games on Steam, nor am I saying delete all your games on Steam. But I'm just some kid talking about his opinion on Steam being a monopoly. Tell me yours in the comments. Peace out.